Dum, 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 dum. Welcome.
Part 2 of the Pariah. What did you think of it?
Well, I honestly haven't read all of part 2 yet, but what I have read, I like it. It's good.
Part 2 is... This book is going quicker than I was kind of expecting. I was thinking that maybe part 2 would be about his time in prison, and the whole 200 pages about that, but nope.
Definitely not. I'm
Not
only
quite.
8 chapters in, and I think there's about... I don't know how many chapters there are. Let's see. There are... Yeah, so there's like about 16 chapters, I think. Could be a little off. But yeah, I'm only halfway through it, and he's already out of the pit. Although, in that time, it's been 4 years since he's... he spends 4 years in the pits.
Yes.
And he does change, but not fundamentally, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like, he's still... Which I guess makes sense. I mean, he was...
It's not exactly a place for, like, rehabilitation.
If you think about how he was raised and things he was done, and then he's in a prison now, and yes, there's an aspect that teaches him about the covenant, which is essentially the religion of this world. And it's kind of unclear, but I'm going to say that she doesn't really convert him fully to the religion. She converts him to her.
Yeah,
he views her as holy and righteous and good. But I don't think it can be argued that he really believes in really the rest of the religion.
I never got that feeling. It seems like he'll say the thing is like, oh yeah, for the covenant, whatever. But like, it feels like he's saying just for other people.
Yeah. How do you pronounce her name? Silda. So he's like totally devoted to her. She dies, unfortunately, but they kind of use that, and they coin her a martyr themselves. It's not really clear all the qualifications one needs to become a martyr, but they do mention it's been 300 years since there's been a martyr, and I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but martyrs are pretty much the people that they worship, like they pray to. I think of them almost like saints in the Catholic religion.
Yeah,
kind of like that. Kind of very similar to that, I would say. So, but it doesn't really seem like he has really any authority, but he kind of starts there's like him and 3 other people make it out of the pits.
Was there 3? Oh yeah, there was 3. I forget, but one of them went crazy, right? And
yeah, because one of them dies, and then he's like, "You killed her, didn't you, Alwyn? Because you never believed her." And so he starts trying to attack her. But then one of the other guys, he's like this big, huge brute of a guy that's like head over heels.
It's funny to call him a brew when his name is Brewer. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. But he's kind of like your big, typical baddie outlaw who's just a big guy. And he's like head over heels devoted to the aspect. And he promised her before he left that he would protect Alwyn. Alwyn wasn't aware of this at the time. But anyways, when this guy's going to attack Alwyn, Brewer kills him. And then they run. But I guess did we mention how they escaped?
We did not.
It took them, there was a big long tunnel that they dug. It took them 4 years to dig to where it was, and they'd already been working on it for, I think, like 10 years before that.
Yeah. So Alwyn and Toria got in a good time.
Yeah, they did.
Even though it was still 4 years, that was 14 years for everyone else, and only 2 other people besides Alwyn and Toria got out.
It's like an interesting life in the prison, because the aspect creates like a convent, like a church-following congregation of prisoners that are in the prison, and they still operate like prisoners. They still do the things, but they also kind of curry favor with the Lord who oversees the prison.
Yeah, because
they scribe for him, and they do different things. Because that's the aspect teaches Alwyn how to write and read, and apparently he's like super good at it. And he's like has really good calligraphy and is smart.
And is smart. Yes.
Because he helps I forget the name of the Lord. It's like Eldern or Elburn or something like that.
Yeah.
He helps them coin or pen letters to lovers.
Yeah. I was kind of curious. I was surprised that he got a job like that. It seemed like the pit is so horrible. It's amazing that they would give even something like that to the prisoners. That's too much of a privilege or something.
I think it's just like this because the aspect. What's her name? I already forgot her name. Silda is there, and she's apparently really good at like articulating herself and talking and winning people over. And so somehow, it doesn't say how, she was able to form a congregation, and certain people within that congregation scribe. I think it's only Alwyn actually scribes for Lord Eldern.
I think it is only
how
Alwyn.
that happens and how that does it, but Eldern does accept Silda as a aspect. He like refers to her as aspect, and later on confesses his sins to her so that he can have a clean soul. And so it's like you said, it's like this really weird relationship where like there's no way they're escaping. Like they're his prisoners, and they're still even the congregation's expected to like mine and get ore and stuff, but they're really good at it, and so they like
they mentioned somewhere
get,
in there
extra food
that her congregation of people, like, they got the most. Oh, I forget the word, but they got the most ore.
Yeah,
they were the most productive of all the.
So
prisoners.
you're able to use all that somehow to get favor, and then
somehow dug a tunnel that they kept secret.
Yep. And then they escaped, but Silda kind of betrayed them in a way because I think she wanted to become a martyr.
I think that too. Yeah.
Because she, in her last confession session with Lord Eldern, she gave him a letter and said, "Don't read this until I leave," or like at midnight or something. And that was basically saying, we dug a tunnel and we're going to escape. And so the guards come and they kill, at least implies that everyone dies. I'm pretty sure everyone died. The guards come, they kill everyone who's in the little tunnel trying to escape.
Uh-huh.
The tunnel collapses, and Alwyn's like, tons of rock just fell on all the guards. And so it kind of seems like pretty slim that not a lot of people got out of that.
Probably not. I mean, cave-ins like that.
And it's heavily implied that all the congregation is dead, because it kind of talks about fighting. They hear fighting, and then the fighting slowly dies down, and then they hear guards climbing up the ladder of their tunnel.
Yeah, so it definitely seems like they gone.
They make their escape, and their part of their plan was to go to, there's this big city that's like a religious city that you can claim sanctuary at, and they make it there by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, literally. They couldn't find the door. Can you imagine?
Yeah, they got lost. So but luckily Lord Eldern was so pissed, and he stuck with the crossbow. He wasn't able to kill him.
Yeah,
he tried a few times. He even almost died, because he was like, they crossed a river, and then they rode up on horses next to the river, and they were like insulting each other, and then. But anyway, interesting bits of chapters, because I think the changes of Alwyn. He's almost become more scheming than and still he still wants his revenge. He's still very motivated by the revenge, and still they used that to kind of like manipulate him and teach him. And she didn't discourage it. She was kind of just like helped him remember things and helped him get through it. And so he still full on wants to get revenge on the people who set up the trap for Deccan and his band at Hans Mill. Not Hans Mill.
Moss Mill.
What's Hans Mill? Is that a thing?
Is that a brand of something?
Hans Mill.
I think I swear there's something called Hans. It's like you can go find some brand in the grocery store called Hans.
I'm going to Google it. I'm going to Google it right freaking now, 'cause I swear Hans Mill is something. Oh, Hans Mill Massacre.
Okay.
So a bunch of militia people killed a bunch of Mormon people. Anyway, that's kind of like almost up to where I got, because so they get to the city, and they claim sanctuary, and luckily it gets granted because they have a relic of some really old martyr who the city's named after, and luckily the aspirant. What are they called? The big leader dudes. I was saying it earlier. I could have sworn.
Spec something or other.
Spec something or others.
I always forget the little titles they all have, but yeah.
Anyways, the main leader of whoever the temple it was, kind of heard all the commotion over the wall, and they were able to claim sanctuary, which was good. But then they become in order to have sanctuary, because sanctuary can be revoked, they have to abide by pretty strict rules. Basically, become monks. They have to like work, and they have to go to church services twice a day, and they have to do some sort of work. Like Alwyn scribes one of his other friends, I forget her name, Talia, Tamia, Toria, works at a butcher shop and brewer.
Of all things, is like a gardener or something.
I don't remember something. No, he works at the orchards.
Orchards,
because he brings back.
That's the same thing.
He gets apple wood that smells good when they burn it, and the apple cider.
Oh yeah, the apple cider.
So, anyways, they're working there, and they're all going nuts. It's only been 4 months. 4 months passes that they've been there, and especially Toria's like, I'm bored as crap.
Yeah. Tori makes me laugh with all of her little things that she says. She says some colorful things later. I think this whole Alwyn's story is so dense. There's so much going on. He was an outlaw. Then he was like he had to run away because his outlaw gang was killed, and then he was sent to this prison, and now he's like become a monk, and then we know he's going to move on to become a soldier. It's like, geez, it feels like any one of these stories could be a whole book by themselves, but we're getting like just a few chapters, moving pretty quickly. But I think it's a good thing, because I don't know if we'd all like a whole book about him being in jail or something, but maybe a good chunk of a book.
I like the pacing so far. It kind of seems like we're building up to something. Like it almost seems like, because Alwyn's the narrator of the story, and it almost seems like he's just trying to like get us up to speed on his past and where he came from, so that he can tell the meat of why he's actually telling us the story.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what this first book will be. Maybe the second book will be.
It almost seems like he's like, we as the reader sat him down and we're like, tell us your story. He's like, well, in order to understand my story, I have to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I was an outlaw in Shirewood Forest with Robin Hood.
With Robin Hood.
with Deccan. And they hatched kind of a half-baked plan to escape that kind of still shows their immaturity, which at first I was kind of annoyed by it, but then I was like, well, they just spent 4 years digging in a mine and being preached at religion. And so, like, maybe they know some more religion, Alwyn knows how to write, but they still don't really have a lot of life experience. Their plan is basically, there's a locked door, and the door's locked because there's valuables, so we're going to unlock the door, steal the valuables, and leave. It's like, dude, you're literally in a church. The valuables to a church, yeah, maybe there's some gold, but it's probably going to be some like relic or something.
Something that would
like
not be
something
easy to,
of like
sell.
Religious significance that sure is valuable, but you're not going to be able to be this penniless urchin and be able to sell it without being arrested. So I'm like, your guys aren't thinking this through. But I'm like, whatever. We'll see if it works.
Lucky for them, they have a different something now they're coming around.
Yeah. Which you don't know. You know about, but I don't know about because I haven't read that far yet.
To spoil or to not spoil?
Yes, because the furthest I get is Alwyn gets a surprise chance to learn some information and to get a little bit of revenge.
Yes.
But a group of supplicants seeking sanctuary come, and among that group is an old bandit mate, Urchel. If you remember Urchel, he is the crazy serial killer, psychotic guy.
Yeah. We learned some messed up things about him at some point.
Really messed up. I was like, crap. Apparently, there's one point where he found a kitten that was like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Almost like dead. And he nursed it back to life for like weeks and months and became like a really nice kitten, nice cat. And it was like
he
really
probably
healthy.
Domesticated it.
And then he took it and then tortured it.
He literally...
And he said that he tortured it like so long and kept it going and howling for so long that Deccan finally sent someone just to go kill it.
Yeah. So like, because they couldn't even get sleep because the cat was howling so much. Like,
so one, like they were trying to sleep through it, like they didn't even care. And then two, they were all like, just kill it. They weren't like, dude, Urchel, you gotta freaking...
I definitely would have been like, you are a piece of crap. I would have gone out there and killed Urchel.
But anyways, he's there, and Alwyn's theory this whole time of who betrayed Deccan is he thinks that Urchel and his family betrayed Deccan with the help of Deccan's honey bunny. What was her name? Jasmine. Yosemite Medemone. Janine.
You're close. It's Janine, yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
I swear I need to be looking at them. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Otherwise, I'm just like, huh? That's one of the worst parts. when you sit there and read a book silently to yourself, you kind of just like...
Kind of looking at me like, like
exactly. It's like, that's not messing around. When it's like, yeah, I'm gonna.
It reminds me of this meme I love. I think I've shared it on this podcast before, but it's like reading fantasy books is knowing exactly what the shape of a leaf is and how a cabin smells and what it looks like and what's in the cabin, but having absolutely no idea how to pronounce the characters' names.
Yes, I love that one. It's like it's almost like a picture. Like if we were just showing a picture of a person, every time their name comes up, it's just a picture of the person. You're like, oh yeah, I know who that is. It's the main character.
Yeah.
But then you see their name, you're like, what the fuck is that?
And then you start talking about the book and you like don't know any of the characters' names and you're like, do you have to read the book? And you're like, I did, I swear.
Yeah, I swear, like the biggest thing we have to do is like get good at being like, oh, he's the guy who did this and that, and he wears this thing, he has the sword, he's the one who killed this person. And you're like, oh yes, I don't know his name, but that guy. It's funny how that is. It's the same way with like every other name, and doesn't matter if it's a city or a person or a road or something.
Yeah, so he sees him walk through the gates and he's like kind of freaks out at first, but then he hatches a plan. He's like, I'm gonna freaking torture some information out of this guy and kill him, and then we're gonna leave. And then he kind of watches him. He kind of stalks him a little bit, kind of creepy. Like hides in the bush.
I think he even like watches him for a few days. It wasn't just like the same night.
He because he says he watches him form habits and he watches him start doing certain things. And then he notices that there's a little girl that lives there, like smiling Anne. I think is how you're supposed to pronounce it. I don't really know. It's Ayin. It's like weird.
Yeah,
spelling.
like Ayin or something.
Like Ayin or something. There's like a little girl that seems really innocent. Like she's kind of seems like a little weird and a little off. Like she'll be like skipping around and she'll be like, "Hello, Mr. Wickerdoodle," and like try to pet a bird or something. Like she's just like something's wrong with like something's off with her. People kind of are just like, "Oh, nice little girl." But Alwyn's kind of like, why is she even like here? Because everyone here has done something. Like the only reason these people are here is because they're seeking sanctuary so they don't go to prison or get executed. So like, what did she do? But then he notices that Urchel like takes a liking to her, and like he notices that hunger come over him, and he knows that Urchel wants to probably rape and kill her. And so then he's like, ooh, that's not good. And then, this is pretty brutal, this scene, I was like, holy crap.
He deserves it.
I was like, holy crap. I'm not denying that, but like, or he's during one of the moments, he's stalking Urchel. He's hiding in a bush, watching him do his labor. Ayin walks by Urchel, and Urchel whispers something to her, and then leads her to a shed. And Alwyn's like, oh, shenanigans, this is about to go down.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even care. Like, who cares? But then he's like, okay, I'm not going to let him kill her. And then he goes and saves her, but it turns out she didn't need saving.
Yeah, she did not need saving.
And we quickly find out why she's in the sanctuary, because she's freaking crazier than Urchel is. But he hears like a pained grunt, and he's like, oh no, he's already started. And he breaks down the door, and he sees blood everywhere. He sees Alwyn holding a severed penis. And Urchel writhing on the ground. And Ayin's just like, he was a bad man, but Mom told me what to do with bad men. Just one slice, and they're not bad men anymore. And she's all just like, and then she like throws it in the corner. And she's like all covered in blood. And she's like, you should go clean up and like go do your evening chores. She's like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, that bad man made me dirty. Like, oh, he's so mean. Yeah. And you're like,
like, I don't even understand how she got that way. Yeah, jeez.
Don't look at her.
Just freaking casually dismembers some guy and is like, la-di-da.
Freaking full on made him a eunuch. But apparently the cut was bad enough that he's like bleeding out, like Urchel's dying. He's like full on dying, and he thinks that Alwyn is an apparition come to like talk to him for some reason, and then he's all like delirious. But Alwyn's able to get some information out of him. He finds out that Janini Weenie, whatever the frick her name is, set up Deccan, which he already suspected, but now he has like the confirmation of it. And then Urchel dies, and he's all like, "Good." That's as far as I got in the story. So right now we kind of seems like it's pretty obvious where this is gonna go from here. There's this recruiter coming to the village. Alwyn's original thought was they were going to use the distraction of the recruiter, because apparently she's really famous, to rob the locked door and escape. So, I mean, judging by the cover of the book where he looks like a soldier, I think you had even mentioned something about soldiers. It seems like the way they're going to get out is they're going to join the king's army.
Yes. They're going to go take on the Pretender.
I don't know how that happens, so...
We'll have to just keep that to ourselves. I'll keep that to myself till next episode.
Seems like it obviously has to happen now because Urchel's been brutally killed in a place that he's going to be discovered pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think they had a lot of rules in this place.
They have the stupidest rules. Like if you do the equivalent of don't say your prayers right, they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
And what's cruel about that is that they are there because if they leave, they'll be thrown into prison or executed. And what's also not kind of cruel about that is like a lot of the people actually like deserve to be in prison or executed, but a lot of people don't. Because a lot of people I think are like the classic, peasants who just pissed off a noble for the wrong reason.
Yeah, definitely could be that.
And like it seems like a lot of people there are actually really good, decent people. Like Alwyn meets a guy who's like really good at like gilding stuff. Like he does like masterful artwork on scriptures of like putting gold leaf on them, and like his works are like well regarded, but no one knows that it's him that does it. But he's like super, super skilled, and he's been there for decades and decades. He's like this old man. And so there's like decent people there, but there's also people like Alwyn and his group and Urchel.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
I wonder if Urchel was even going for Sanctuary, if he was just there for some reason. I wouldn't be surprised if he was there for Sanctuary because we know what he thinks he's done.
Especially in the 4 years. Because he does mention that for a while they stayed in the forest and they were banditing, but then they were betrayed again by Janini Weenie, and then he ran away from that. Doesn't really mention when that happened, but there's definitely a period of years where Urchel was able to do what he likes to do, which is who knows how many people he's killed at this point where he gets castrated and killed. So
That was too good for him.
Definitely no mercy or sympathy for that guy.
I'm curious about Ayin, because she's like this little girl who already knows how to like just dismember a dude. Like, how many has she done to get herself like? Did her like one of her parents or something be like, "We need to get you out of here. We can go Sanctuary and whatever."
Maybe she was like a scullery maid, and some lord tried to get her, and she was like,
that's another thing too. Is like, is this young girl just like getting approached by a bunch of pervy dudes who
I don't
are
know,
just
'cause
like,
she said the way she talked, she said that's what her mom taught her to do that.
Yeah, so that's what makes me think like she's had a bunch of guys like try to do stuff to her or something. And she's like, "Oh, take this." I'd be scared to talk to her. I'd be like, "I just needed to ask you a question," and like, where?
I know, like, where is she just gonna snap and just be like, think I'm a bad guy and kill her?
Right. And I, if I was like her age too, I don't know how old she is, but if like she comes of age,
like
she's pretty young. But I mean, like when she becomes of age and it was like dating age or whatever, I wouldn't want to ask her out. I'd be like, "Can I ask you out? Can you want to go out?" And she'd be like, "Bad man," or something. And be like, "Oh, never mind." Yeah, I mean, it's always. I even get nervous when like little kids have something they're going to throw, like a ball. I'm just like, ah.
Unless they wind up so much.
I know. I can't imagine what a little girl with a knife would do.
Sometimes I have perfect aim and just beam you around the eye.
Yes.
It's like totally unpredictable too.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, the cruelty of this world definitely has not diminished, and it definitely seems like it's more large scale. Like if you're not a noble, you're pretty much just gonna have a crap life. And sometimes even if you are a noble, you never know what's gonna happen. You have still crappy things happen to you. But yeah, there's still a war going on with the Pretender, which at the beginning of the story, we were kind of at the beginning of the Pretender Wars, and now they've just still been going on. So
We'll get into good stuff. Finishing up this part 2, getting to part 3. All right, I think that wraps it up for us.
Short episode today. My fault. I got sick and didn't read as much as I should have.
It's hard to read when you're like, ugh.
It's hard to do anything other than wish you were dead.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for joining us for the Pariah. That was stupid. It's over.